Thank you very much, Jeff, and good afternoon, everyone here today. As Jeff said, I was a PhD student in one of the projects that organized this event, and I am going to talk about capacity building through research. So, one other very important aspect of research is the capacity to deliver outcomes outside the scope of science. So I'm going to briefly talk through some of the added value of funding research, and I'm going to provide some figures on especially promotion of education, skill development and training, promoting gender equality, cooperation within co-countries, integration of research and researchers, promoting industrial participation and promotion of the European research area. So education and knowledge transfer were promoted throughout the projects through postgraduate degrees such as PhDs and masters and other educational opportunities such as practical training sessions, company visits, seminar school visits, and PhD courses. PhD and master's students were obtained at the level of 113 PhD degrees and 43 masters. And there were around 24 other educational activities organized. And education was promoted as well for skill development through the organization of workshops. Workshops were organized internally for members of the projects or externally for members of outside the projects and as well for industry. And there was overall just under 350 workshops organized. In terms of gender equality, at the end of the projects, there were around 30% of women in management positions. And what is important, I think, is that from those 30%, almost 60% were promoted throughout the projects, either into management or within management. Cooperation with INCO countries supports European competitiveness and enhances knowledge production. There was overall 28 participants from INCO countries, namely from Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, Indonesia and Russia. And there were a total of 30 events that were organized either for or by INCO countries. There are several aspects on integration to highlight. One of them is mobility programs. Mobility is carried out by project members from any EU country to any other EU country. And those programs help to promote knowledge transfer, completion of deliverables, and enhances productivity throughout publications, for example. So all the projects involved in this event sponsored mobility programs. There was a total of 169 mobilities through partners, across partners and countries. And 68% of those participants were women. As a personal note, I had the opportunity to participate 2 times in mobility programs in 2 consecutive years, and thanks to that I had the opportunity to visit other laboratories in other countries of Europe, in Greece and in France, and that contributed to my PhD, of course, as well. Another form of promoting integration is through meetings. Meetings contribute to review progress achieved within the projects and to redefine goals. Small meetings are typically held by research areas, committees and work packages, and there were 113 small meetings organized. And big meetings involve usually all the members of the projects if they are organized as general annual meetings, or there could be 2 or more projects involved if they are organized as dissemination conferences. And there were a total of 43 big meetings organized. Increasing industrial participation helps to define goals of projects so that they address real industrial needs. And in this sense, there were 84 industrial partners involved. And from the workshops that I mentioned earlier, there were 170 external workshops, from which 98 were aimed at industry instead of to research. So that is around 60% of the external workshops aimed to industry. And finally, in terms of promoting the European research area, there are two forms of promoting. One could be written dissemination and oral dissemination. In terms of written dissemination, there were just under 700 publications in international peer-reviewed journals. From works generated from these projects. 15 books were published, and in terms of oral presentations outside, in countries outside the European Union, there were 232. Other forms of promoting the European research area is partnering with countries outside the European Union, and in this sense there were 15 partners collaborating from outside the EU. And in terms of registering intellectual properties, there were 7 patents coming out of these projects. And the reason for such low number of the patents is mainly because most of the research results were left to open access to publications. And if there was a need to protect intellectual property, this was achieved through confidentiality rather than patents. So just to summarize, I wanted to demonstrate that there is a clear additional benefit to research funding that goes beyond scientific scope, and that the main areas that are benefited from this funding could be promotion of education, integration of women, integration of researchers, training, supporting industry, and dissemination of the European research area. Thank you.
Sol, thanks for that. With ample evidence there that there's more that comes out of the funding of scientific research than the science findings themselves. And her PhD, incidentally, was funded by the EU 6 framework project, Biotracer.